everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, we've all been waiting for new information in regards to the Madeline Soto case, a very tragic case, you know, in regards to the murder of a 13-year-old girl. And we know that this guy on the screen, Stephan Sterns, I'll show another picture of him. He's already been charged with murder in the first degree. And he, because of that crime and some of the other crimes he's committed, he's eligible for the death penalty. But a lot of how this happened, where it happened, a lot of that has been left a secret to only law enforcement. But some of the new document that came out based on the discovery that the defense has requested, it gives us some real hints as to what's going on. New documents in the case against Stephan Sterns, the man accused of killing 13-year-old Madeline Soto, detail what potential evidence law enforcement and detectives have gathered during their investigation. I'm looking for the, here we go. Recently, the state responded to the defense's motion for demand of discovery, which sought to see what documents, items, phone records, and other elements the state has in its possession before a possible trial. The 5-page document provides an itemized list of what the state has in its possession. Various statements, logs, and incident reports from the deputies, detectives, and officers involved in the investigation are included. But other items include affidavits for what appear to be social media accounts, possibly tied to Madeline Soto, including one specifically for Discord and Instagram. There's also an application for tracking information connected to 3 vehicles, a 2012 Honda Civic, a 2010 Lincoln, and a 2022 Nissan. It also references a pen registration, which tracks outgoing signals from a cell phone, arrest warrants, a firearms trace summary, and the medical examiner report. 2 of the numbers appear to be connected to Sterns and Jenn Soto, Maddie's mom. The report details what documents have been provided to the defense, what documents can be copied, and what documents can be examined or viewed by appointment at the state attorney general's office. The document requests the defense provide a 1 terabyte hard drive to store copies of the various items. You have your crime scene, actual on-scene activity, then your major case investigation steps, and then you can see it progressing as they're getting warrants and asking for certain things, according to Stacy Cheprin, a forensics expert. Madeline Soto's body was found on March 1st in a grassy area in Osceola County, 5 days after she was reported missing. Her mom's boyfriend, Stephan Sterns, has been charged with first-degree murder in her death. Officials have not shared details on how the Florida teen died or the circumstances surrounding her death. Officials previously said her laptop and backpack were found inside a dumpster at an apartment complex. Sterns has not spoken to detectives. He has not provided a motive in the girl's death, according to officials. So this is some of the things that we're going to go over today. We're going to go over the discovery material step by step on a PDF document that was released by the Osceola courts in the Circuit Court of the 9th District. So folks, hold on to your hats, get ready. You're entering true crime from a police perspective. And you're entering the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Ranch Michael by there.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Joining me tonight to dissect all of the information we have is going to be retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney, and man of great reason. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Billy, good evening. Good to see you. Thank you for having me on. Welcome, everyone.
You know, Mike, we're going to get to the extensive 5-page list of the evidence and you can describe to the audience that may not be familiar with the term discovery. Why don't you describe to the audience what discovery actually is, Mike?
What discovery is all of the investigative reports from the initial complaint report taken by, in this case, it would be a missing persons report by Uniform Patrol, detectives' reports, all their follow-up reports, all the notes that they made, that they took, they wrote down on a pad of paper and then made an official report out of it. All of the applications for search warrants, copies of the search warrants, anything, requests for DNA, requests for fingerprints, results of those things, everything that is in the prosecutor's possession that they will use at trial, however many boxes it is, however many documents there are, however many tests there are, firearms tests, DNA tests, ballistic tests, all kinds of things. Everything that they have that they are willing to and ready to use in a court of law has to be turned over to the defense. At least, depending on the state, it could be 60 days or 90 days. To me, it looks like here in Florida, they have a 60-day window where they have to give all that information to the defense. This way, the defense can therefore get their own people to look through it, to review all the documents, so that when they go to court, both sides have a very good idea of what the other person's case is, so that there's no ambushing the defendant at the trial. And so it's supposed to make the trial much more fair and give, real due process to the defendant so they can adequately present their defense. And that's simply what it is. Everything that is in the prosecutor's possession has to be turned over before trial so that the defense attorney can prepare their defense against the charges.
Very well explained. I'm going to take one of your courses one of these days, Mike.
Thank you.
Let me put this on. This is from a local TV station, Fox 35.
Madeline Soto. We're getting a better idea of what the trial could look like for the man accused of killing her.
Yeah, a new list of evidence has been made public. And Fox 35's Marie Ettinger has been sifting through this list all day long, and she joins us live right now. So, Marie, what are you finding in there?
John, that new list just released by the state gives us a better view of what might actually come out in this trial. And as this memorial for Madeline Soto grows, so does the anticipation to find out what exactly happened to this little girl. This is a list of the items the state plans to use in the trial. We're talking a terabyte hard drive to copy just some of the discovery over. That's enough space to store 500 hours of HD video or over 6 million pages of documents. The list includes references to guns like firearms trace summaries, even though we still don't know whether a gun was used in this case or how ultimately Maddie died. Forensic expert Stacey Shepard says the list tells a story.
You have your crime scene, actual on-scene activity, and then your major case investigation steps, and then you can see it progressing as they're getting warrants and asking for certain things.
The list includes reports by 21 different investigators. It references mobile tracking devices on 3 different cars. There's a section about pen registers. Those are devices that record the numbers of phone dials out, and trap and trace devices.
I don't know. I lost it for a second. Okay, I think we lost the video. It's okay.
Okay.
So I think they covered pretty much what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
One of the things we have to realize is that Madeline Soto was missing for 5 days, and then they discovered her body. During that time, the police absolutely focused on Stephan Sterns as the numero uno suspect in this case. So as such, they had, they talk about the devices they put in the cars, which they, of course, needed a search warrant to follow these cars and to see where they were going. All kinds of different search warrants. And that's some of the things we're going to focus on. But one of the most important things that occurred in this case that actually got the case going was when the detectives brought Stephan Sterns in. And when they brought him in, he's free to go. He's not under arrest. But detectives know, and I'll use a Yiddish word they use in New York City, how to schmooze a potential defendant. Schmooze him, be nice to him, get him talking to you. And use your best acting to show that, no, you're not a suspect. And this was so important because guess what they got him to do? Guess what they got him to voluntarily allow them to do? Right. And there's a consent form, and we'll see this. Yeah. Consent to search. They allowed, Stephan Sterns allowed the police, without a search warrant, to search his phone. They made sure, and this shows they know what they're doing, they made sure that he signed a consent to search of his phone so that later on he could say, I never gave them permission. And surely after they found the bad stuff, guess what? That at that point, probable cause is established. And Mike, you're the attorney. Once probable cause you describe it.
No, probable cause is a certain level of proof that would induce a normal, prudent, reasonable police officer to believe that a crime has been, is being, or is about to be committed, and the person they have seized, the person they have in front of them, is the person who did it. It's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, like, say, for instance, at a trial, but you have to have some objective proof that would induce a reasonable person to believe that a crime was committed and that person did it.
You know, Mike, what I actually also was looking for was at this point, if the detectives were going to proceed with questioning, they now have, he's under arrest.
Oh, yeah, that changes everything.
Read him Miranda, right?
You got to, yeah.
After they read him Miranda, he didn't want to talk.
Right.
He knew the gig was up. He thought that he had erased the contents of his phone. And he made that big mistake. But for the law enforcement, that was a jackpot because now they could put this savage in jail while they continue to investigate it. And they know at this point he's their guy. And that was a crucial part of this case, and it happened very, very early on in this case. Let's just remind you of some of the things that occurred in this case.
There's a presser going on in the state of Florida by the state attorney there. And this is regarding Madeline Soto, who you have heard about, and the child. And Sterns is the one who had been charged with pornography. Let's get you live into the presser.
7.5 weeks, actually. The Civil Police Department and my office have been working closely to go over every piece of evidence that we could gather in this case. It was a voluminous and a lot of evidence to get through during that time, but we were successful in getting through it and making sure that we were able to provide the best case we could. Today, we're announcing that Stephan Sterns has been indicted by the grand jury on first-degree murder for the killing of Madeline Soto. We presented the case to the grand jury. They returned an indictment earlier today. has been some questions as related to the length of investigation. I just want to let you know again that my office and the Kissimmee Police Department have been working vigilantly in making sure that we had every opportunity to get every piece of evidence that we could. I want to thank the Kissimmee Police Department and their tireless efforts. They've done an amazing job in the heavy lift that we've asked them to do, as well as the prosecutors that have been assigned to this case and making sure that we got every piece of evidence reviewed and gathered in this case. While death investigations usually take around 5 to 6 weeks or longer, we were able to get this one done relatively quickly and get the case to the front of the grand jury, like I said earlier today, to return the indictment against Mr. Stephan Sterns. The death penalty in this case, we have not decided to what decision we're going to make in that case. We're going to continue those discussions going forward, and we'll let you know again when we make that decision as to whether we're going to seek the death penalty in this case. I want to thank the grand jury for their hard work and their efforts in making sure that we're making this first step in seeking justice for Madeline Soto, for her family, and so this the community can have closure in this case.
You know, this is sort of torturous listening to this press conference, but I just want to say that if everyone that's been following this case knows that he didn't get charged with murder from day one. What held him in were the 60 charges that of SA that they found on his phone. That's what held him. I'll put the document on the screen. That's what held him. He wasn't charged with the murder till much later, but they were confident that he could be charged with it. There's the document right there. 60 charges filed against defendant Stephan Sterns. 8 counts of S battery, 5 counts of S battery with a child between 12 and 18, 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation, 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials. And you know what this is. I don't want to, for YouTube's sake, I don't want to spell them out because they love censoring it. So I'm just not going to say the words. But that's what held him in. That's what held him in the very beginnings of this case. And so most of us, we don't know, not most of us, none of us know what the cause of death was. And none of us know at what point and why did they have enough to charge him with murder first degree. We were never told that. And we still don't know that. And even in this PDF, this 5-page PDF document outlining the discovery material for the defense, we still don't know the cause of death, Mike.
Yeah, Billy, very, very quickly, probably within I don't think it was even 48 hours, they zeroed in on him and they had the pictures and they arrested him. And the good thing about that is, A, they didn't have to pretend and watch him and see if he was a flight risk. B, they were able to, because they know statistically, if you get any sort of SA involving children, I think the FBI has said the average life expectancy is maybe 48 hours after that. So they knew they had to act fast, even though they had their guy that they believed, they had him on something else, which he would easily do probably 50 years, which would probably be a life sentence for him anyway, just on those charges. They were able to mobilize a task force really quickly. Everybody chipped in. I mean, I don't think those cops, those detectives slept for a week. They were working until they found poor Madeline. And in that time, they were able to get emergency affidavit, search warrants, do the emergency affidavit, get the search warrants on the tracking devices, on the phones, all kinds of information. They had before they even had like the crime scene, photographs and everything else. And so they were able to put together really quickly because they probably were a well-manned task force, and they were able to do a lot of work really quickly. People are like, well, it took them like 5 days or something like that. But the public doesn't realize how much work can get done in 5 days if there's a group of cops determined to find a child and get justice for this child. And then they're working 24, right around the clock, 24/7. You can get a lot of work done. They did it. And the volume of information they had 21 detectives in this task force. That's amazing. And I think people should be proud of the work that got done quickly. And this list of discoverable evidence that was turned over tells a tale about how hard and how quickly and how well, how well targeted Stephan Sterns was. They knew who they had right away, and they had him. He was not going anywhere, and they were able to do this. And I think the fact that they didn't pull the trigger on the murder charges was good. They had him. He wasn't going anywhere. Get all the information you have. And I know, getting that phone information, that may take like a month. Sometimes getting toxicology from an enemy's office, toxicology reports from a lab, that might take 1 month or 2 months. You've got all of those things, the tracking, GPS, all that information, the phone information, that takes several months sometimes. So they did everything right. They did it right. They crossed every T, dotted every I, and made sure that when they went ahead with the charges and presented them to the grand jury, that they had their guy. And I think they did a great job.
Absolutely. Carol Grayston, thank you so much. Carol has gifted 5 police off-the-cuff memberships to anonymous people that are part of the police off-the-cuff family. Carol, thank you so much. Folks, if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit the like button, share us with your friends and your family. If you want to contribute to us, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership with Carol just gave away 5 memberships with count them. 5 different levels. We appreciate all our fans, our friends, and subscribers. It is now time, I think, to get to this document that we've been talking about that is so, so important. State's response to demand for discovery. Now, some of this stuff here, signature affidavits, one statement, a lot of these are the investigators and the work that they did. And you got to realize there were more than just investigators from the local police department. From Kissimmee Police Department. This crossed several jurisdictions, and I think they also had the State Attorney General's office investigators. So an outstanding job. And I'll bring your attention to OSCEOLA property form. It says tire tread and scene photos. That is such important evidence because the tire tread implant, and sometimes they can make a model of a tire tread using plaster of Paris. They actually recreate the tire tread right on the scene in a mold. Mm-hmm. And then they'll match it to the person's car, who they think it is. And in this case, of course, they think that tire tread belongs to Stephan Sterns' vehicle. So they can match that up to his tire. And it's amazing evidence because you show that to a jury. And this tire tread was taken, 50 feet from where the body was recovered. This tire tread absolutely matches the tire tread belonging to the vehicle that's registered to Stephan Sterns that was actually eyeball witnessed on the scene. And then after the tire tread, you see scene photos. That undoubtedly are crime scene photos, of course, which we are not privy to. That would show where the body was dumped. And again, so important. But now the defense is getting this. So is the defense going to know the cause of death? And not specifically from this evidence, the scene photos, but later on, we'll see in this document, there's a medical examiner's report included in this. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, the discovery demand is something that is very routine in every single case. And the state has to turn it over. So the demand is made, is pro forma. They're going to get the defense is going to get the information. They turn it over, and this is basically the invoice. This is the invoice, and this invoice matches everything that is on hard drives or however they store it, however they send over documents, hard copies, whatever it is. But this reads like as you go down from PG1, page 1, all the way down. You go to page 1008, you realize there's 1,000, 1 page, 10 page, 15 page photographs, you name it. It's all there. And it tells the story in pretty much, I guess, like a chronological order of how things were done very quickly. And it's fantastic because once you start to look at it, and if you look at this first, you may be like, what am I looking at? This is like just lines and lines and lines. But when you start to read it carefully, you start to realize, okay, I see where they're going. They're going they're going here, they're going there. They're looking at all three vehicles that belong to everybody in the family. They're looking at everybody's phones. They're looking at a firearm. Oh my goodness, why do they have a firearm? How does a firearm fit in there? And you start to realize what the police are looking at, what they've seen. Obviously, the firearm is somehow involved somewhere in this case. So therefore, they have a trace on that firearm. So it's a fantastic, it's kind of like a roadmap as to what actually happened over the course of, days and actually weeks of work by the police. So it's a fantastic roadmap. So anyone just want to take a look at it, read it slowly, read it again. And after you read it like 3 times, you start to realize, okay, I get it. I see what's going on. It's a great thing.
You see under pages 23 to 24, and it says Faro, and then it says major case prints.
Mm-hmm.
Major case prints, what they include is not just all 5 fingers, but also the palm prints. And they're usually just taken on a regular piece of loose leaf paper because FBI fingerprint cards only fit the fingers. There is no place where you can take palm prints. But they felt the need, of course, to take major case prints. And of course, these are probably of Stephan Sterns. And that is also listed in this discovery document. Then we see affidavit for search warrant for 4012 Santa Maria Drive, number 107. We all know that address. That is the address that Jennifer Soto, Madeline Soto, and Stephan Sterns, although not registered as a tenant there, he stayed there all the time. That is probably the number 2 crime scene. Number 1 would be, of course, where they found Madeline's body, that crime scene. But the house, because we don't know where she was killed. Could this be 4012 Santa Maria Drive, number 107? Could this be the location of the murder? Could this be where Madeline's life was ended? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. What evidence did they recover from that? We don't know. We have no idea, but they did show in the discovery that they did apply for a search warrant. The next thing, affidavit for search warrant for Discord. That's a site on the internet, apparently, that many young kids hang out on. And as a result, many adults who are, I don't know, I don't want to use the word because, but they are looking for kids. They do too. So they got a search warrant for this site, mainly in Maddie Soto's name. Affidavit for search warrant for Google. What kind of searches were made on the computer? Were there any incriminating searches made with Google? That happens all the time. And sometimes people that are involved in committing crimes, they give themselves up with that. Affidavit for search warrant, the Lincoln, that's Stephan Sterns' vehicle. Affidavit for pen register, Instagram, and Little Figment. So the pen register is the outgoing phone calls. So all of this stuff is, now we see a list of all the detectives that are working on this case, because that's something that the detectives' bosses, that's something that the defense will want to know. They'll want to know who worked on this case, who collected the evidence, because defense attorneys, if a case goes to trial, what they always try to attack is the evidence, and they try to attack the investigators. So you see there's 21 different investigators listed on this discovery that's handed over to the defense. Pages 166 to 170, application for a mobile tracking device, 2012 Honda Civic. Now that, I believe, is the vehicle that belongs to Jennifer Soto. Application for mobile tracking device, 2010 Lincoln, you got it. That's Stephan Sterns' car. Application for mobile tracking device 2022 Nissan. I believe that may be, and I'm not positive, that may be the biological father of Madeline Soto's vehicle. And then they go down with we already talked about the search warrants for the home for 4012 Santa Maria Drive, 107. Crime scene report. Of course, that has to do with Madeline Soto. Electronic incident report, transmittal form. So all of these are police documents that the necessary paperwork they're filling out in order to facilitate some of these reports and some of these legal documents that they'll need and that they will turn over to the defense attorney. You see Orange County Sheriff's property form, Orange County Sheriff's evidence and property report, Orange County Sheriff's property form, another application for mobile tracking device authorization for the Honda Civic, order authorizing installation and use of a mobile. So all of these things, they covered their ass very well with paper, because these are the type of things, if done improperly, a defense attorney will surely take to task and try to disqualify some of the evidence.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, Billy, just the tracking devices, as you mentioned that, you're going to need a search warrant for that. And so therefore you got to do it properly, because you don't want, they're lucky. He was frozen in jail. He wasn't moving anywhere. He wasn't driving his car. He couldn't take it to the car wash to get it detailed and clean out any incriminating evidence. He wasn't a flight risk, but before they got him, they wanted to know where he's going. Maybe with the mother and the biological father, they want to see their route, where they go with their car. Is it possible? And, you, me, Phil, we've talked about this many times. You start thinking, okay, could the mother be involved? Could the biological father be involved? Okay, let's get a search warrant to track their vehicle. Okay, does anyone go to a particular place, or before the body was found or after the body was found? That sort of thing. So that tells you where people are driving to, where they're going, when they're going, what car they're taking. You see if you could match it up with the cell phone data tracking and see what towers their cell phone is pinging off of, who they're talking to at those times that they may actually go there. Because you're going to need somebody who's really good, who's got that real engineering mind decision. Say, okay, we've got this tracking device information. We've got this cell phone tracking device information, and whose cell phone was pretty much in that car driving. Oh, by the way, who were they talking to? Who were they texting? What was the essence of the messages? So, it's a multi-layered investigation, and they did a great job. And it looks like they did it. They followed the rule book on it and didn't cut corners. And you see 21 detectives, and that's important also, because every one of those detectives took at least one report that was included in the discovery package that had become part of the case file. So therefore, each and every one of these detectives may be available at the trial to testify about what they did. And of course, if you're a defense attorney, you've probably been roasted on the stand, Billy. I know I have. I'm sure Phil has too. You make a report and you haven't seen it for a while. They'll try to find every single grammatical mistake, every single form mistake, every single little thing they can. And so they're going to try to see if you're a very young officer, inexperienced, and you made some errors. They just want to kind of discredit you to show the jury that, yeah, look, the police didn't do a thorough job as they could have. So that's why you have such listing of personnel and all the reports that the personnel had done, and you could see from tracking devices what they were probably thinking and hypothesizing before they maybe found her body, maybe even after they found her body, what was going on in that family before and afterwards. And so therefore they could say, okay, we can include the mother or we could exclude the mother. There may be some things here that would actually exculpate the mother from any sort of criminal suspicion. So this is excellent. It's very thorough.
Interpreter Carmen Ortiz from the chat. No one talks about Jenn Soto. She immediately cremated Madeline, and in one of her interviews, she said they're looking in the woods, but I don't think they will find anything yet. You know, Carmen, one of the things that may be true that Madeline was cremated, but they did conduct an autopsy before that occurred. So from an evidentiary standpoint, law enforcement did what they needed to do with that. That's, I'm trying to read someone in the chat. Most likely, Lizette Perez, so funny how he tried to look so cool and handsome. And now he's looking like an old man. And like, if he can't even talk, looking so rubbish like an old man, walking like an old man. Well, jail will do that to you, you know, and one day you're free, and one day someone's telling you when and how you can eat, when you can go to the bathroom, when you can take a shower. When your freedom's taken away, it's the real thing. Jane C., you both are the best to explain, review this. Thank you so much, Jane C., very much appreciated. I want to go back to the document now. Again, they keep coming up with the mobile tracking device. Not only do they have to swear before a judge to get a search warrant for the mobile tracking device, it has to be approved. So you have to explain to the judge why you need the probable cause you have to get, because to obtain a search warrant, you need probable cause. So to get all of these mobile tracking devices, they have to go before a judge and swear as to why they need it. Again, search warrant for Discord. I'm not familiar with that site, Discord. Apparently it's a site frequented by young kids. This one, if you look at page 252, this struck me as very interesting because firearms trace summary. Right away, I started to think, could this be that Stephan Sterns shot and killed Madeline? Why is this firearm brought into the picture now? And they had to release this to the defense attorneys. So I can think of all different things. Was this gun just in the possession of Stephan Sterns or in his house? Did they recover it in the search warrant? Or based on the autopsy, was Madeline killed? Was her cause of death a gunshot wound? And I'm not saying it was, but why is there a gun in this discovery material? And that definitely piques my interest and piques my investigative antennas as to, could this be? Mike?
Yeah, Billy, when I saw that, I was going through the first time or second time I was going through the list. I was like, wow, firearms. Wow. Okay. I don't think he had like, maybe if he had like a legal gun, I don't know, clock, whatever, and maybe he had it for protection and he was a licensed, carrier. I don't think they would have taken it and seized it unless they took it because there may have been, and I'm hypothesizing just like you, that it may be that she was killed at a different location, or she was killed in a different way at one point, taken to the location, and maybe to try to cover up, he would maybe make it look like that she had been shot by someone. You're not sure what the mind of the killer is thinking, because there was a thought that she was already deceased when he had her in the car driving away, and it was seen on surveillance video, which would indicate that she may have been killed inside. I don't know if you would use a firearm in a small apartment complex, but if you're out in the woods and you're trying to make your deed look like something else. So that's how we were hypothesizing. And I think they took it because, they may have found a bullet, and they're going to take it. And this is probably some sort of ballistic testing, or maybe it looked like from scratches and bruises on her head. Maybe she was hit over the head with it. I can imagine if it's a large enough firearm, you could do some damage to a poor little girl like that. So it's possible, but yeah, there's somehow this is something relevant to her death, maybe her cause of death. I don't think it was just, well, they found this lawfully possessed firearm and they just wanted to take it. They took it for a reason. And so I think, as you and I are hypothesizing, I think that's how it kind of works, and that it was used as partly to maybe cause the death, or maybe to try to use it to cover up the actual cause of death and mislead police officers. I'm not sure.
Latier from the chat: how effective would the tracking device be on Stephan's vehicle when it was put there because he got arrested 2 days after Madeline was declared missing? Well, Latier, great question.
Yeah.
Possibly Stephan Sterns dumped the body very early on in the investigation. And if they were able to plant that tracking device early on, that may have been how they discovered that his car was at that location. And then what did they do? They took a mold of his tire from the print left on the ground. And also, they had an eyeball witness at that location saying that they saw him there. So I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. Did the tracking device track him to that location? Did the eyeball witness give him that information? I don't know. Or was there other GPS type tracking besides the tracking device that they got the search warrant for? But Latia, thank you. Great question.
No, really good question.
I don't know the exact answer, but look, they wouldn't have went to the trouble to get these tracking devices if they aren't successful, if they haven't had success with them in the past. Look, law enforcement is on the front burner of technology. They're using all the latest technology. And you notice in almost every single case we cover, some kind of digital evidence is almost the smoking gun every single time. And in this case, as we opened the show with, what kept this savage in jail? His phone. Right. The images on his phone kept him in jail while the police now could take their time doing the investigation. And look, I have said, and I'll still say it, I think Jennifer Soto was involved, and I don't know why or when they're going to slap handcuffs on her. And I predict that they will. I believe she's involved. I cannot believe that this horrific situation was going on with her daughter for 5 years, and she knew nothing of it. I just do not buy that, Mike.
Yeah, Billy. The phone it's tremendous. It is our. We have so much there. Pictures, our history of our communications with people, calling, text messaging, and so if there is anything at all on Ms. Soto's phone, and it may go back 6 months, a year, whatever, how long it is, and there's any sort of communication, text communication between her and Stephan that sounds like she is aware of and tolerating this sort of behavior, then she could easily be arrested for child, at the absolute very least, you'd be child neglect, child abuse, and it could also possibly be, depending on what it is, a conspiracy charge if there was ever any evidence with her cell phone that would indicate that she had an awareness that he was engaging in SA, or that after the fact that she may have covered for him, because people don't realize it. We text each other all the time. We don't think that, when you text me and say, are you free to do a show? That, and I answer back, that's permanent, pretty much. Right. People don't realize that, and I don't realize until you start to think about it. You're like, yeah, that's a history of my communication with everyone in my family and all my friends professional and personal, and it could lead to charges with her. So it's possible. And again, they can take their time. They can take their time and do it right. Ms. Soto is not going anywhere anytime soon. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are watching her, just in case she may try to run.
Jordan Davies from the chat, how soon do you think it was until the tracking devices were put on the vehicles? Jordan, I think that when Madeline Soto and Stephan Sterns made the missing person report, I think almost immediately the police got raised up about Stephan Sterns. And I wouldn't doubt that they went very quickly, maybe in the first day, to get the search warrant for these tracking devices on both of their cars, because the stories were bad. Remember the interviews on television where he was crying dry tears? Remember that? And I also felt that Jennifer Soto wasn't all that convincing. I think the police weren't convinced by them either. And I think they were raised up, and they probably got those tracking devices pretty early in the investigation. Crime in a bottle. Not often we hear about Persians in the true crime community. I am married to a Persian, and he and his family are like, what are you doing? See, just wondering how the Persians came into this case. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Oh, okay. Jenn Soto's mom is Persian. Okay. I wasn't sure what that meant. Let me go back to the affidavit here, to the discovery material. Affidavit for search warrant, Google. Remember we spoke about how people will Google, for example, how to get rid of a body, how to transport a body. People actually search that, and then they commit murders.
Yeah.
So that's always something that the police want to check. The police always want to check the computer, and they do a search warrant. They don't even actually have to have your computer. They can search your computer remotely now with these tools that are unbelievable. In the Gilgo Beach case, Rex Heuermann, they had searched his computer thoroughly months before they even arrested him. So they knew all of this bad stuff was on his computer that gave them evidence. It actually gave them concern that he was going to continue doing what he was doing. Again, we see an affidavit for the search warrant, the Lincoln MKZ, that's Stephan Sterns' vehicle. We got to remember that the search warrant on the vehicle is for not just for the evidence with the tire imprint, but the vehicle could potentially be, is a crime scene. And they may have been able to find forensic evidence inside that Lincoln. So that's what the search warrant was for that. Application requesting the installation and use of pen registration and trap and trace device, and the disclosure of stored electronic communications and transactional records. Remember, we talk about how digital evidence is the evidence of the 21st century, that in almost every murder investigation, it comes up. And trap and trace is a pen register is tracing outgoing calls from a phone. So when Stephan Sterns was out and about, and when he remember when he dumped Madeline's laptop and her backpack, I believe it was, dumpster right on the property of the condo that they lived at? Did he call Jennifer Soto anytime before or after that? How important is that, Mike?
Yeah, Billy, you just take a look at everything and you get the chronology of things. You match everything up. He's sitting there. He didn't realize it. Thankfully, he didn't realize it, that he was caught on candid camera in the area right around the apartment complex, putting everything in there. When you see him doing that, I hate to say it, and I used to say it all the time, it's consciousness of guilt. That's not the actions of an innocent person. That's the actions of someone who's trying to cover something up. And, therefore, You take a look at what car he's driving. Did he text anybody immediately after that? Is there a text message from him to Jennifer saying, to the mom saying, look, I did something, or did he text somebody? Did he call somebody? Who did he call? How soon was it? What did they talk about? Is there any text messages like that? You put it all together with the chronology, and you could kind of, in some ways, by looking at the car movements, the movement of the phone, by maybe any kind of text messages, you could kind of put together what he's actually thinking, and at that moment, and what he was thinking, and from what he'd done, what he was thinking, and maybe what he would be doing in the future. And so therefore you get a real idea of what his state of criminal intent, if any, is at that moment. It's powerful evidence, and it is a necessary bit of evidence, as our use of cell phones is so ubiquitous and so constant, in our lives. I mean, I touch my phone, other than teaching in my class, I'm touching my phone before I enter class, after class, that sort of thing. We're using it all the time. It's not like an old phone, 40 years ago in your kitchen. It's on the wall. It rings once a day or twice a day in the evening. No, we are using ours constantly. So all these little bits of information, and the video, put together a real timeline, and for the police as to what happened, when, who was doing it, where they were, where they're going, that sort of thing. It's fantastic use of technology.
Jane C., I wonder if they did a pregnancy test. Jane, I would almost guarantee they did.
Yeah.
As part of the autopsy, especially because they knew what was in Stephan Sterns' phone. So I would almost guarantee that they did do that. But thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely important, because it also shows potentially motive. Simi Sharp, by the way, yes, I'm listening to Sergeant Bill. I've got 6 kids, and I'm quite used to multitasking my brain. Well, that's great. I think we all have to multitask these days. H. Cook, Sergeant Bill and Mike G, with the gun in this mix, can we open up a possibility of homicide with the gun? H. Cook, yes. I think that is definitely a possibility. And as you notice, they're keeping that very quiet. They don't want anyone knowing the cause of death. MNT Treasures, Discord is for gamers to talk while playing online games together. MT Treasures, thank you for educating me. My kids are grown, or else I would have known that. If my kids are on that site at 32 and 29, I'd question them. Terry Ellis, the firearms could have been used to abuse in a few different ways as well. Terry Ellis, no doubt. The only thing, and I'm sure that the police tried to do. Let me just Patricia Berkelio. If there was a gun, the mom cannot say she never heard anything. No, but one of the things that the police would have loved to have had was a full interview and interrogation of Stephan Sterns. But once they discovered what was arrestable in his phone, not only arrestable, but prisonable for the rest of his life, that's how bad it was what they found in his phone. Once they found that, and then they had to read him Miranda, you have the right to remain silent, and all of that stuff. You have right to an attorney if you can't afford, with all of the whole Miranda thing. Once they read that to him, he invoked his right to counsel, and there was no interview. So all of the things that we could have found out from coming out of his lips and him confessing, we have to now run it down from the outside looking in, instead of him telling us. Much more difficult, not impossible, much more difficult. But if he would have confessed, potentially this is a death penalty case. So I don't know if he knew that. Alexa, I said same thing. Unfortunately, optimistic. They're doing the same exact thing as Duty Ron and Ed Wallace. I don't know what you meant by that, but that's okay. Crime in a Bottle, thank you so much for the $9.99 super sticker. Very much appreciated. For all you guys with your support. Simi Sharp, why not support all the good channels? If you don't want their take, then bounce. Hit that like on your way out. Simi Sharp, I like the way you said that. You said it like almost like a New Yorker. Roseanne, I have a question. Why are cremations allowed so quickly when it is suspicious on a living? Maybe in the future, a second autopsy would be helpful. Whether or not there's an autopsy is the decision of the chief medical examiner. So if someone can get to the chief medical examiner and convince that person that an autopsy is unnecessary, then that is one reason why they might not do one. And I've seen, there was a case in New York where the chief medical examiner agreed not to do an autopsy because of religious reasons. And then it turned out a couple of months later, the family wanted the body exhumed because they felt that the husband murdered the wife. They exhumed the body, and guess what? The husband murdered the wife. And after a trial, he got convicted. So it's a decision that a chief medical examiner must make with great, great care. And in this case, we know there was an autopsy. However, yes, she was cremated, but they have the evidence they needed. So my question is, when someone, and BB2, unfortunately optimistic, yes, police off the cuff and Duty Ron don't always cover the same story. And if they do, each one gives me personally a different perspective within the same crime. We're both from the same police department, different perspectives maybe, but we have some of the same perspectives. Rogerio Brito, that monster knew that little girl for years. Besides all the abuse, he just dumped her body like a trash bag. I also think the mother knew things. Rogerio Brito, I happen to agree with you. I think you're 100% correct. Let me go back and finish off the discovery document. So we did the pen register warrant, target devices, accounts, telephone numbers, application for warrant, application for order, application for order. There's a lot of search warrant, charter communications. So there's a lot of paperwork here. Search warrant for Sterns, search warrant Madeline Soto. Madeline Soto, I think what they did was they interviewed Dr. Kumaraguru, Behavioral Health, and Orlando Psychiatric Association in regards to Madeline Soto to find out her medical and mental health background. Pages 408 to 450. This is like a slam dunk of a report that we would all love to see. And that's the ME report. And the ME report will tell us the autopsy and the cause of death. We all know this was determined to be a homicide. The ME report will tell us the cause of death. Was it asphyxia? Was it a gunshot wound? Was it blunt trauma? That's what this report will tell. And everyone that's followed this case wants to know the results of that ME report. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, this is because of Madeline's youth. They didn't release it, and it's going to be held very close to the vest. So just the prosecutor, the detectives, and the defense attorney have that information, and they've been told not to release it, don't leak it, that sort of thing. And that is it is wise, because this has received so much attention, and there's probably going to be, you've read these reports, you've been to the ME's office many, many times. I have, Phil has, some of the crime scene pictures, the reports, even though it's typed out, you and you understand what has happened to this person. And it's horrific, and therefore it's best left just to the jurors to hear at the trial and not disseminated, because sometimes people will take things and reports and disseminate them and use them in a way that is improper. So I think it's good that it's held close to the vest until the trial, and only the jurors will hear about it. And I think that's enough. We know this poor girl suffered grievously for years, and and she was actually, as the viewer said, treated very, very poorly, and that's sad. But just leave it as it is and let the jury decide and let them hear the facts at the trial. And you don't want to sensationalize anything more about Maddie's suffering any more than absolutely necessary. So I'm glad it's actually hasn't been released.
Annie Oakley 777, for 5 years I hadn't heard that. Heartbreaking. Yes, apparently Stephan Sterns was involved in Madeline's life since the age of 8 years old, and we all know that she was murdered when she was 13, the day after her 13th birthday party. Nina Chandra, I've been saying from the start I don't believe her or her weirdo, creepy boyfriend. Michelle DeMattis, I agree that she's involved, Sergeant Bill. I do too. I think it would be impossible for her not to be. I'm dismayed a little bit that she hasn't been arrested yet. And I would think that down the road, that certainly could happen. Simi Sharp, I learned a lot so far from Sergeant Bill, and I always learned something on Duty Run show as well, but why you got to come through shade, though? You're using that New York slang. I like that. That's okay. Jackie, at Happy with a Twist Acrylic Paws Plus, but to have given Madeline's cremates to her father makes me think she expects to be arrested. Hilda, it's 9:15 p.m. Central Time in Texas. I just got in right now. This is Hilda from McAllen, Texas. How is everyone doing today? Hilda, I'm glad you announced your presence. Welcome. Lami, for me, it's hard to believe she didn't see any red flags or have intuition. As a parent, I will never believe she didn't know something. Cynthia Gaines, hi, Sergeant Bill and Professor Geary. Always good to see you guys. Lieutenant Peter Pranzo, of course, is here. Harlem Raiders, always great to see Lieutenant Pete.
Hello, Pete.
Roseanne, I wonder if they ever looked at my phone, what they would think. I've Googled some crazy nursing stuff. Yeah, they might think you're a serial killer or something, right? Just kidding, Roseanne. If you're a nurse, you have a reason to Google some of that stuff. Marcy C. Definitely Jen knew, because with her son, her saying she watched her daughter get dressed for school tells a lot. The poor girl was dead. Marcy C., that's very intuitive. You're right. 100%. Ella Blue, does Sterns know the cops retrieved the? Of course he knows. His lawyer, he knows. That's why he was arrested. Plus all the other evidentiary stuff that we're going over right now, no doubt his defense attorney told him about. So it's like he knows the gig is up. He knows that he potentially could be facing the death penalty. Sherry Murray, not trying to make fun of anyone, but they both sure put on a good act for the public at the beginning of this case. Fake crying, all the shaking she was doing. Yeah, that was some sort of an ugly showing at that TV interview, which no one believes there was any truth to any of that. Let me go back and we'll finish this off. A lot of electronic reports that we don't know specifically what it is, but you see there's 400 and they have the arrest warrant and the affidavit for arrest warrant. Now, initially he was arrested, of course, on what was the bad stuff that was on his phone. But then he was rearrested, of course, for murder in the first degree. So these potentially are two different arrest warrants. The one for the 60 charges against him, and the other one for the murder in the first degree. After the emergency report warrant, request cover sheet, search warrant, another search warrant, a wanted person table. So every piece of paper, and if you've ever been a law enforcement officer, there's numerous pieces of paper that you must fill out. And this is already, it's up to, here's an interesting one. Orange County Sheriff's Office evidence and property report, cell phone mapping. Now that's where the GPS and the cell site information, and where an expert would map where Stephan Sterns' phone, where Jennifer Soto's phone, where it was at specific times and dates. And it's super, super powerful evidence. Then we have all this thing, incident reports. So that's basically it. We've sort of covered everything. At the end of this, it says, please provide a 1 terabyte hard drive for a copy to be created and provided to your office. The following media is available to view by appointment. Defendant's cell phone download. Some of you guys asked about his cell phone and all those bad pictures and things that were on his cell phone. You think his defense attorney will want to see that? I think he would, Search warrant, return of defendant's Google account. So all of this stuff, and here we go. That's the end of it. So it was a 5-page, discovery document that is probably the most important document in this case right now. And we all remember, different things about this case, and it wasn't solved immediately, as they always insist on. In a major case, people want the case solved yesterday, and all of these things take time. And all of these things, we get frustrated being on the outside looking in, that the police aren't giving up anything, because we hear that term, they're keeping it close to the vest. And that's what they do to protect the integrity of their investigation. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, you don't want to see the wild kind of things that happened in, say, the Koberger case, where people were publicly accusing, a bartender of killing the 4 young people in the off-campus dorm. I think somebody actually even accused a professor, all kinds of wild speculation. And that was actually kept really close to the vest. But sometimes people get so caught up in rumors and think rumors are actually fact, because someone told someone who told someone who told someone who told someone. And so therefore the police are really very careful about what they release. And it is very frustrating, of course, absolutely it's frustrating. But I think in this case, they were working like dogs in the beginning until they found her body, because they didn't know if she was actually dead. They didn't know where she was, that sort of thing. Maybe she was being held hostage, they didn't know. So they did everything round the clock, even though this guy, Stephan, was behind bars. And then after that, they knew he wasn't going anywhere. They could take their time. They could dot all their I's, cross their T's. And then you now turn the case over now to the district attorney. As you saw in the video, so far, there has not been a determination yet, as of this date, whether or not they will charge him with capital murder and seek the death penalty. They don't have to seek the death penalty. They could, it's up to the state of Florida, looking at the aggravating circumstances, whatever mitigating circumstances there are. That decision probably will be made in a couple of weeks. His attorney will be notified. And at that point, if they're not seeking the death penalty, they may try to put some sort of offer on the table, for a plea. But I don't think they'll really get into that sort of territory with plea deals until after that decision is made by the prosecutor. Remember, not every single death penalty eligible case is actually tried as a death penalty case. It just means that it could be because of the particular circumstances in the case. But very few death penalty eligible cases actually get tried as a death penalty case. It's up to the prosecutor. The prosecutor is in the driver's seat. It's going to happen quick, probably next 2 weeks or so, because they got to prepare for trial. I think the trial is going to be this summer, probably in the next 90 days or something like that. So this case is hopefully will come to trial and we'll get some justice for everyone, especially Maddie, as fast as possible.
Absolutely. Coty, please explain further about pen registers and other collection of electronic evidence. Well, the pen register is to track outgoing calls. So that's what it would be on a phone. So whenever he made an outgoing call from his phone, it would be set up to trace that call. A trap and trace can track either incoming or outgoing calls. So all of these electronic devices, again, on cell phones. And the other tracking things are, of course, cell site information, which tracks GPS. Everywhere you go with your phone, it's pinging a cell site. And it's more and more sophisticated that even we saw that case in Kansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, those two Oklahoma moms. They were out in the middle of nowhere, but yet their phones were tracked right to the location where they buried their bodies. So the technology is just unbelievable. It's just incredible. And usually just about every case we cover these days, electronic evidence, digital evidence is the smoking gun in the case. It's just unbelievable. Helen, these documents show that the police in this case have crossed their T's and dotted their I's. Well done to these two police departments. Helen, we were saying right from the beginning that they did an outstanding job and they continue to do an outstanding job. And one of the ways they've done an outstanding job is not to tell people what they have, not to disclose the information that they have. And that's important. And sometimes when you get leaks, that can really damage a case. I want to go to the Kissimmee chief, who also, Chief Campbell, did an outstanding job in this case.
During our forensic investigation, we uncovered disturbing evidence, graphic images, and videos depicting crimes being committed. It was during this examination that we learned we needed to act swiftly to remove the suspect, Stephan Sterns, from our streets. Despite the arrest, our investigation into her disappearance remained ongoing. We understand the importance of thoroughly exploring every lead and piece of evidence. The Kissimmee Police Department, along with other law enforcement agencies in Central Florida, continue their search for Madeline for the next several days following her disappearance, and we turn to the public for help. During this time, our investigators combed through a significant number of tips, and on March 1st, we received information placing Sterns' vehicle in a rural area of St. Cloud, where ultimately Madeline's body was discovered.
See, folks, remember we spoke about that? Mm-hmm. They received information. Was that information from a tracking device, or was it from an eyeball witness, or was it from both? So that's what this evidence right now is telling us.
We are all deeply saddened by the outcome of Madeline's disappearance. The Kissimmee Police Department continues to piece together the timeline leading up to the events that occurred. I want to address some questions we are receiving from the media in everyone's effort to keep the community up to date on this tragedy. At this time, Sterns is facing a total of 60 charges related to our investigation. This includes sexual battery, lewd and lascivious molestation, and unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child. These charges reflect the meticulous work of our law enforcement community. Our detectives also are working closely with the State's Attorney's Office for the 9th Judicial Circuit and the Medical Examiner's Office on the investigation. Death investigations are complex. Tasks like forensic analysis and thorough interviews are crucial and require careful attention. It is vital to address these misconceptions in the pursuit of justice while preserving the integrity to the case. During an investigation such as this one, we gather additional information from individuals close to the deceased. Each person interviewed is treated as involved until proven otherwise. This is a standard protocol to ensure all the facts are uncovered. During our investigation, we have interviewed many individuals. Each interview has been vital to our understanding of the case. We are reviewing all of the information we received and are following up on every lead. Attention to detail and the diligence are the most important aspects of this investigation. We are committed to transparency and will provide updates when possible. Madeline's story has touched the hearts of many. Rest assured, our department is diligently working on the investigation. And while we appreciate the public's interest, we must prioritize the integrity of the investigation. We appreciate your support and understanding as we gather the facts. We intend to release additional information in the future, providing more details that we do not compromise the ongoing investigation. We vow to do everything in our power to ensure Madeline's memory is honored with justice. Our detectives are dedicated to pursuing every lead, uncovering every fact, and holding those responsible accountable. Now I will open it up for any questions.
You know, I apologize. I said Chief Campbell. It's actually Chief Betty Holland, who did an excellent job on this press conference. Someone asked in the chat also, was there anything in the paperwork we went over in regards to Jennifer Soto? Yes, there was nothing that gave probable cause, but they did a search warrant on her car. They did a search warrant on her house. So she's in the mix. And people asking me, well, why hasn't she been arrested yet? There could be many reasons for that. One of the reasons could be that they feel that she'd be stronger as a witness against him to make sure they got a slam dunk, and maybe they don't have a strong enough case against her. I said from the very beginning, I think she's involved, but that doesn't, my hunch doesn't give them probable cause. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, they've got a lot of information on Jennifer. They've got her movements with her cell phone, with her car. They've got her probably all the text messages. They've got her the phones that she's been calling and people calling her. They got an awful lot of information on her, but but at this point, it may be, as you say, it's tactical. Maybe they'll do something in the future. Just because you have probable cause doesn't mean you have to make the arrest immediately. You know, you don't have to. People don't realize that you can actually let that person go and follow them and just see what they do. But it may be just as much that they have all this information and none of it leads the detectives to conclude that there is probable cause that she was actually part of any sort of action that resulted in Maddie's death. Like, for instance, an awareness of what was going on beforehand. Possible that she took part in like a disposal of the body, that sort of thing. So it could be that there's a lot of suspicions, but you have to have probable cause, and it's got to be based on objective, articulable facts that you could bring before a court and say, we got this information. It doesn't mean that, they won't get it in the future. You don't know. Remember, this is a homicide investigation. And there is no statute of limitations. If Jennifer Soto is thought to be, a participant either before or after the crime, she could be arrested, 20 years from now. So they can take their time. They can take their time and do it. But at this point, I'm like you, Billy. I don't think there's enough to show that objectively they got her. I don't think so.
You're right. Kati, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Roseanne, I wish there could be certain policies, procedures, and regulations across the board with CPS in every state. Although Maddie wasn't a CPS case, better education could have identified a problem sooner. Roseanne, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think somehow this case slipped through the cracks in some way. Terry Ellis, prying Paul is possible, I think, only with a mother who isn't present and is an inattentive, and even a jealous mom would not know. Paula Apadesano, Law enforcement originally said the home was the crime scene. Jenn was home. So how could she have been killed at home without her knowing? Well, good question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, Paula, that they ever really gave it up where the crime. Well, actually, the chief, when he first did the press conference, the chief from another town said something like that, but it was never said after that. They said that, and I don't know if he said specifically the home or the town, but you're attentive. You're right. Kathy C. Sergeant Bill, do you think they'll be able to catch more people into this child porn, for example, groups he's in? Kathy C. 100%. In fact, Professor Mike and I, before we started the show tonight, we said the same thing. His phone is a treasure trove of perpetration, of perps that are doing the same thing as he was. And hopefully they'll be slapping the cuffs on, or maybe they already have slapped the cuffs on a lot of them already. Prying Paula, right? Terry Ellis, you know there had to be changes in the child's demeanor and behavior when it first started. How did she not see that? Yeah, we all have said that. I said that in the beginning. We spoke about why didn't her teachers at school notice anything? Her doctors, her yearly physical, they didn't notice anything. So yeah, we asked these very same questions in covering this case a number of times. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, I think part of the problem is that, people get like teachers, and nurses and things like that. They get the training and things like that. But maybe in emergency rooms, you're seeing an awful lot of, a high volume. And if you get kids injured, the kids may say one thing, and they want to talk to the child outside the parents' presence. But it could be that they're busy and they're overlooking these things. It could be that there are people who maybe not in, say, the nursing or medical profession. There may be teachers, and they're, doing other things, and there's not an awareness. Like, yeah, okay, that was training I had. Yeah, I know statutorily, I'm an informer. I have to do this. But I'm dealing with all these kids. I've got this, I've got that. And unfortunately, we see this. I mean, I've seen this for you and me. We've seen this for decades, that, you will get kids slipping through the cracks, and kids who may have had actually records where they're supposed to be visits by child welfare people. And the visits were very perfunctory. Maybe they visited by phone call, things like that. Unfortunately, I guess I know in New York City, you have your domestic violence detectives and things like that. And quite a lot of times domestic violence goes along with SA, is related quite often to SA of children, but it may not be given the priority and the resources it needs. And unfortunately, you have a high volume of cases, and things just fall through the cracks because we have so many other priorities, and therefore the kids sometimes get the short end of the stick when it comes to resources. And that's just really sad. You've seen this. I've seen this on patrol.
Absolutely. Prying Paula. Mom said she saw Maddie getting dressed at 8, but he pulled into the apartment complex at 8:19, and Maddie was in that car. So clearly that is not true. Innocent people don't lie. Prying Paula, you're preaching to the choir. I happen to agree with you. And yeah, I have a lot of questions about Jennifer Soto, but so far she hasn't been arrested. Nancy H. Teachers are overloaded and medical appointments are pushed through as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We know all of this.
Yeah, you're right.
Something that's new to us.
You're right.
Let's see. Roseanne, Suhaila, me too. I can't believe CPS have reported many children, and my administration, the CPS, shredded reports due to short staffing. I work in an ER. She's being brought up on charges for her actions. Whoa. Prying Paula, I have a 10-year-old daughter. Her private area hasn't been checked at a checkup since she was a baby. Yeah, that should probably be part of the physical. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to tell doctors what to do, but the most important thing are the mandatory reporters. Mm-hmm. The old thing, if you see something, say something. Folks, we covered this tonight as best we could. I hope that we were informative. Eric Olson, car is having issue. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Laugh out loud. Joan, I feel if Maddie was pregnant, he would be charged with 2 murders. Well, that's a whole other issue. They just recently announced that he was being charged with murder in the 1st degree. Mike, we covered this. I think we were pretty thorough. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, Billy, I think that regardless of what happens, whether or not it's a death penalty case or the state just looks for, life behind bars without possibility of parole, that sort of thing. Stephan is going to get what he deserves. Just the pictures alone depicting SA, he could probably do 50 years on that sort of stuff. That is a death sentence for him. That's it for his life. Trust the state of Florida in terms of seeking justice for Madeline. They've done a great job so far, and hopefully there'll be some offshoot investigations involving any of Stephan's friends that he's sent pictures to, talked to, texted to, things like that. Hope that that Madeline's death and this investigation, that part of the justice can be that a whole bunch of other sick people out there that abuse children are going to be investigated and arrested and locked up and tried and put away in prison for a long time. So just keep our fingers crossed about that. Remember Madeline in our prayers, and and hopefully we'll get justice for her.
Well said, Mike. Folks, again, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you've not subscribed, go on to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit the like button, share us with your friends. Justice for Madeline Soto. Justice for Madeline Soto. Prayers. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Have a great night, and God bless everyone.
Good night.
One episode, just ain't enough.